Again, if you have any questions, feel free to type them in the chat, and then in case I drop out, someone can be able to have them just there, and then I can be able to respond to them one by one. So we begin at this moment. Where I've shown my screen, sorry. Presenting. You will let me know if you cannot be able to see my screen. Otherwise, I assume you're able to see the screen. Also, thank you guys. Hope to have a great time today. Right. So that is me. And then, yeah, I've said that. So ideally for today's talk, I shall go over a few things I've done, and then why cross-platform applications are the thing, and then we shall do a demo, and then I shall be able to let you know what you guys can be able to do in anticipation for our next meeting. All right. So as we begin, I have this cool quote that I have in all presentations. This is like my friend who said it, that every app consists of only two things: forms and lists. Forms in the sense of they capture data, and then lists in the sense of they display data in a list. Like think of Facebook, all those posts are put up in a link. Then the form for typing in your post, that is a form. Think of Instagram, all the lists, all the posts are lists, and then you have the form that enables you to be able to craft your post. Think of if you guys have used something like Twitter, very simple list of tweets, and then there's a form to be able to input your tweets. So ideally, most applications just consist of forms and lists. And so, like with this basic knowledge, if you are able to make something that has a form and a list, then you are on your way to make 90% of the applications. And then, so I worked on a few applications. We have iTestify, sharing testimonies per request, seeing this is like a hymn book kind of thing. Then Atlas Pay is a money transfer application. So what they do is they deal with transferring money from abroad into Kenya. And then lastly, there is Stories. Stories is a application which is able to allow you to be encouraged, especially in these seasons. It was born out of such deep seasons as this, and then as you are able to interact with others, then you also get encouraged, because at times all you need at times is just a story from someone else to keep you going in a hard season. So yeah, that's some of the main things I've worked on. There are others here and there which I shall be sharing as we go along, and hopefully have our website up and running properly, because I haven't had time to complete the website. So now, why is it important that we consider cross-platform applications? The main reason for this, ideally, will be viewing things from a business perspective. Now, say you have an application that has to take advantage of a scenario. Like say when COVID came out last year, the in thing was e-commerce. Yeah. So you want an application which can be able to take advantage of that. It takes a long time to build applications, but then with such solutions, then you find that it becomes much simpler. It becomes much simpler to be able to craft solutions. And then so like in a business, you prefer to cost save and spend as little time as possible for that. Then also again, making an app for say Android Store or other Apple, maybe like desktop, all those at times they require different design teams. But then with cross-platform applications, you find that you can have like one code base for across several platforms, as you shall see shortly. Then As an example, you have React Native for things like Facebook Messenger, and then Twitter as well, Instagram, and like and Airbnb as well. So those use React Native. So meaning that there is a case for cross-platform solutions. And so here's now where Flutter comes in. You're able to make like really cool UIs. You guys will actually will like see this in the coming few weeks, and then you have almost native performance. And this here is the reason why most guys will choose Flutter over something like say React Native. It is almost native performance. This means that like an application, then it behaves as if it was made using like say for Android, that is Android Studio, and then for iOS, it was made using the Swift language. So that is where now Flutter comes in. And so we shall do a simple demo to list items. So here we shall be listing like FAQs, and then we shall be able to now see how to add things to a particular list. Now, as we move into the demo, remember this one thing here. As you work with Flutter, you will hear this over and over again until you get sick of hearing it. Everything is a widget. Think of widgets like Lego blocks or a bricks. If you have a house, you make a house using bricks. So now the bricks make up a wall. Then the wall becomes like a big widget. Then 4 walls make up the room. And from there on, you can now partition the room like using more walls. So you find that a brick leads to a section of a wall. So like a widget will form a bigger widget. A bigger widget will combine all the widgets to form another bigger widget, and until in the end you find that all the widgets combine to form one app. And so hence the phrase in Flutter, everything is a widget. So ideally that is it. So I shall now move on to the demo, and then we shall proceed from there. If you have any questions, again, feel free to type them in the chat. I shall be able to respond to them. So already I've installed Flutter on my machine. It's running. So you find that here with the default application, this is it's running on Chrome now. We have the default application in Flutter. We have the title here, demo home. Oh, God, I forgot to correct that spelling. And then we have you've pushed this button like this many times, so you can have this and so on and so forth. So this is the application which comes with Flutter by default. And so to take us through in Flutter, everything is defined in the pubspec.yaml file. So this is like where you define the things about the app. So here we'll see the app name. This is the name that will be recognized by the Flutter framework, that is this application. And then you have the description if you want. Publish to like there's a marketplace, or like there's an online place where you get things called packages. So if you are making sorry, they drop off. I trust I am still audible. Okay. So if you are making a package, then you can publish it to pub.dev, and then we have the version of the application, and then we have what the application depends on. So in itself as well, Flutter is a package as well. So the app requires Flutter as a package, and then here I've added another package called get widgets, which we shall see why in a few moments. And then we have Patino icons to be able just to show like icons. Then also we have dev dependencies. These are dependencies that are only used for development. Otherwise, when you ship the app, then they're no longer used. And then this one here, it allows you to use material icons and so on and so forth. forth. These are other things. You can specify fonts. You can specify if you have images that you need to see like in the app from the file system right here. Where sorry. I'm told I need to zoom in. I trust this is much clearer now. Yeah, this is much clearer now. Sorry about that. Need about some. Right, moving on. So now thing happens in the lib folder. Now in the lib folder we have this file main.dat. So what main.dat does is that it imports the app, and then it there's this method here, void main, and then these things, and then there's the run app. So ideally, this forms what is called the entry point. The entry point of the app. Actually, the app, meaning that when you start the app, this function will be run, and then run app will be called, and then it will load our entire application. So remember, everything's a widget here. So my app is a widget. So there are two types of widgets. The first widget is a stateless widget, and then the second widget is a stateful widget. So the difference is a stateless widget, it is assumed that it won't change during runtime, and then here it's assumed that it will change during runtime. So for instance, like say if you are doing like a list of like Twitter, the widget will be like the during runtime, but then the like button can be a stateful widget. And stateful widget, and then so every widget provides what is called a build method. A build method is now where the widget itself is returned. So it will build, ideally, like it will build the widget and then give the widget back to the class here. And then now, as we see, this class is being run. So you find that we have the material app, which is like the parent of the entire application, and then we have the title of the application. As you can see, Flutter demo up here. So that is the title of the application. So if I change this, I say like start up, then I hot restart, it will change up here to start up to be the title of the application. And then there is theme data. This just specifies things like colors. If you have like say primary colors, I can change the primary color to like say red. And then in most places you can have like the red color. Yeah. As you can see, like here there is red, and then like the main places are now red. And then here now we have like say home. So home is the widget that the app should show first. So in our case here, the home widget is called my home page, and again my home page is another widget. So remember, small widgets build up to form bigger widgets until you have an entire application. And then now a widget can have things called properties. So in this case, our homepage widget has a property called title. Title here is a string. So here is now where I made my spelling mistake. Shall I page? But yeah, keyboard. So I can now pass in a property from another widget, and then I call this widget here and pass in a property, and so on and so forth. So ideally, widgets have properties, and then you can specify what those properties are to achieve what you want. And then I think like one time somebody asked, where does stateless widget come from? If you hover over stateless widget, you will see that this is imported from the Flutter framework. So you find that there is Flutter source widgets, and then this is framework. So again, it is a widget. So again, it is a widget on top of a widget, and so on and so forth. Same case to stateful widget. Full widget has two bits. There is this, and then there is it returns the home page state. So the state is now where the things change during runtime. And in our case here, we have the counter variable set to 0. Center increment counter, what it does is that it gets the value of 0, and then when you do the plus plus, it increments the value of 0, the value of counter by 1. And so here we now have the build method. So the build is what now constructs the widget. There's something here. This method is run every time set state is called. So if you want to rebuild a widget, like say if you want, and I will say for instance, and I'll show you like then we have here a widget called Scaffold. So Scaffold has like the up bar. So the up bar is now where the title goes. So for instance, like if I do this, then the up bar will be removed. There is no up bar. So ideally, Scaffold as well is a widget. This widget has properties. One of them is the up bar. The up bar displays the title, and then title again is a widget called text. So smaller widgets building up to bigger widgets, and so on and so forth. And then we have Scaffold as well has a property called body. So body here is a widget called center. Center, what center does is it aligns everything like to the center, and then it has a child called column. So widgets accept children of two types. So you can have a widget which only accepts one child, and you can have widgets which accept multiple children. So for instance, a column can accept multiple children, and here is now where you specify the children. So here the first child is the text button. You have pushed this many times, so which is this, and then we have the next widget, a text widget, and then which now holds the counter variable, and then you see you can style it to have headline 4, say like headline 1. So if I do a refresh, hot reload, we have the 0 being quite big, so you can so every widget as well has properties. So some properties are required, like here text is required, and then other properties like say style. Like style. We have style, we have start style, we have text align, etc. You can they are nullable, so which means that they don't have to be there, but you can choose to have them there. Then here we have float action button as well, being an attribute, or like a property of the Scaffold widget. So it accepts a widget called a floating action button, which is now this one here, and then the floating action button, also called in short a fab, accepts a number of things. So we have on pressed, what happens when the fab is pressed. So here we call our method increment counter, which is up here, that is able to call counter plus plus. And then we have the tooltip. The tooltip is important. I think when you hold down this for long, you get that hint over there, increment. And then we have a child. So it accepts like one child, which is an icon, and then the icon is a widget which accepts a property called a widget called icons data, which defines the widget that should be returned. In this case, it is add. So I can say I will remove. I can say icons dot delete, and then if I reload this, it should be able to change the icon here to a dustbin, or like a trash can. Same thing. Right. And so now I'd like to take you guys over how actions happen. So for instance, the increment counter. So I mentioned up here that in the docs, they mentioned that this method is run every time set state is called. So now let me print counter here, be able to help us see this value of counter. We have a counter there, and then that. So I'll do this. Maybe previous value of counter. And then we have new. Make us to observe something. If I comment set state out, and do this. It's taking a while. Okay. Yeah, there we go. Now, if I do a hot reload, let me just show this console here. So if I do this, let me just squish this a bit. If I press plus, like you see, the previous value of counter is 0, the new value is 1. So again, the previous value is 1, the new value is 2, but the UI isn't changing, so on and so forth. So you find that here we have the new value being 8, but the UI is not changing. That is where now this comes in. So remember, the build method is called when you call set state, and this is now the part of my place like where I'd say that we learn base state management, set state. So if I do this and then I now do this, so you find that as I do the plus, the previous value is 1, the next value is 2. So you find that set state forces the build method to be called, and then like when the build method is called, it rebuilds the screen, and then you find that the display changes as opposed to previously when it wasn't changing. And ideally, that is it for basic state management. So maybe up until there, do we have any questions? Any questions in the chat? Okay, to use on which platform, or do you have to specify? So now, as you make the UI, everything is a widget. So as well, by default, icons is imported from material. So if you want the Cupertino icons, what you do is you do this Cupertino icons dot this, and then you have dot add. So you can have the same icons for both platforms. So you find that here we have the Cupertino version. Should be having the Cupertino version for the add icon. Not much different, but let's say airplane. Hopefully this is much nicer. Yeah, that is it. So ideally, if you want material, if you want Cupertino icons, you just call this, and then you see that this is imported from the Cupertino library, as opposed to icons, which is imported from the material icons. I guess that is it for that bit. So now I'd like us to proceed to the next bit of building out a simple like a simple UI. So I'll delete most of this. Do this, and I'll remove this as well, because I don't need bit. So again, I'll remove this. I'll remove this text that comes with the app. Then I'll remove this as well, and I'll specify the title here as a startup FAQ. I'll do that. I'll do this. I'll remove this here. I just remove the body, and then also I'll remove the floating action button. Awesome. So at the moment, we should be having a blank screen that just says startup FAQ. Beautiful. Beautiful. So now I'd like to move on to the next bit of things. So I'd like to make a list. So in a list, I'll specify here a variable, say like my variable called FAQs, and then I'll define it into an empty list. FAQs, what I can have, it will be empty. And then I'll come to the body here, and then I specify the body tag, and then I will do a list view dot builder. So it has a property called item builder, which specifies what to display for each row, and then it has something called an index. So at this particular row, what exactly is the index of a particular row? So here I'll bring in a widget called list style. So a list style, I will do this, and then I will do, say, item count. Item count specifies how long the list is. So like we'll use the length of the FAQs variable to know how long the list is. So this is a FAQs, the variable dot length. So the length of of this will specify the length of the list. Now there are around 3 ways to do a list. So we can have list view just like that, but then if you don't anticipate, if you anticipate content that is done at runtime, then it's best to use this, because it only generates the list as you scroll, as opposed to list view, which generates, like, say, everything at once. So we have item count, the length of FAQs, and then it will display a list style. So a list style is another widget as well from the material library. It has a few properties. So you can have a title. So a title here, we can say a widget called text, and you can say this is FAQ, and then it also accepts something called leading. A leading here will be something like an icon. If you check on your account, actually there's only an icon there. Say like the image of the person, or maybe just the initial. So it goes into something called a leading. So here you can have an icon, and then here we have, say, icons dot builder, and then let me just define this, and then you can have like just a random list. So if I do like a list of 7,000, it will generate a list of 7,000 list styles. So as you can see here, we have this. Okay, I hope this can be noticed. So I'll try to do a list view. Let me just do this. So as we shall see just how performant the list view builder is. The list view. So if I say children, and then I say list tile. Awesome. So I can say list tile, and then what I can do is I can for each. Then let me just see if this will work. Return that. So for each, no, just don't have, okay. Yeah, here's the for loop. We return that. Awesome. And then yeah, 0, and then say I want 7,000 items. I don't know, will this work? Unexpected, expected to find. Okay, this will take too long. But ideally, like doing this, what will happen is that the screen will freeze for a moment, generate all 7,000 of them, and then now display, as opposed to the list view builder, which only displays the ones which are required when you are in scroll. So like say here, it will generate more as you scroll down. So this is like more performant as compared to list view and then the children. So I'll do this again. So at the moment we don't have anything in our list. So I'll do a hot load here. So the list is empty. So I'd like them to proceed into wrapping this in the column. So I pressed Control and the period. Then it will suggest for me to wrap this widget with another widget called a column. So in the column, this should throw an error. Yeah. Okay. Actually, you want to see this now. Yeah, it will throw an error. But let me just do this first. What I can do to display this error properly is say question. If I do this and then I just like hot reload. Okay, hot restart. You can give it a few seconds. Yeah, I'm supposed to press continue, complete. Okay, this one display as well. Let me just remove the column first, and then I display this particular thing for reload. So here you find that we have interesting. Oh yeah, sorry. Here I'll fetch the value FAQs.index. So this here gives me the index of that particular type for how long this is. So I'll just use FAQs index, and then I'll use I'll be fetching the FAQ at this particular index when that list is being scrolled. Yeah, so question. But then if I wrap this in a column, like in a column, it will throw an error. So the error here ideally is this is the error. If I do this, I should be seeing the error here that render box wasn't laid. This is what happens. Like what it means is that this a column expects something of a particular height, but a list view it does not specify the height beforehand. So you find that it only calculates the height. It calculates the height during like runtime. So you find that this will not work So to fix this, what you normally do is you introduce something called shrink wrap true command. Again, like we call that that a column expects widgets of a particular height, but this column here, but this screen can only go for so long. So what you do is that you can wrap just as before, like began. There you go. So the column has now become scrollable, and then thing that was in a particular screen. So moving on, I'll introduce now here. I'll change this into a stack. What a stack does is that a stack it piles up widgets. So like you have this widget being at the bottom. So like a stack, think of it as a pile of plates. So like in the pile of plates, list the builder. So the first one here will be the bottom of the pile. Then I will introduce this here, like another widget called a text form field to be on top of the builder, so that when I come here, I'm able to see a particular box up here. Allows me to type in things. Yeah, and then I'll just like wrap this with a padding. So which is called padding. So padding, it actually I do only, and then I can do at the top. At the top, I like to give a padding of like say 50, say 56. So if I refresh this, then it will shift the widgets it will shift downwards, so that this form field has some good space up here without overlapping with the other widget at the bottom. So that is our stack of plates. So bottom plate, top plate, and then now to be able to manipulate a text, a form field. So ideally, what I want us to do is I want us to so I'll remove this here. I'll remove this here, and then have an empty list. So I'd like us to have an empty list, and then as we type in, we shall be adding to that particular list in memory. So I'll introduce something called a text field controller, or like a text editing controller. Sorry. Editing control. By convention, you always prepend, like you always suffix the controller with the name controller. So I'll do text editing controller. So what this does, it allows us to manipulate the text from anywhere. So I'll specify something called a controller. So this is a property of the text form field. And then again, here I can do what is called like a decoration. So decoration ideally here will be input decoration. Yeah, input decoration, and then I can do a border. So a border here can be, say, something like a input border. No, this border something. Should be border something somewhere here. Border circular. I can do this. No, this is the radius. Sorry. input border. Yeah. No, not input border. Okay, I'll skip this for now. I can do here, I can do this thing. It's called a suffix. So I can do a suffix, and then I can do a suffix can be a widget. So here in the widget, I can do something called an icon button. An icon button, it accepts a button that is that has an icon. So I can call this icon, and then do icons dot send. Yeah, send. Again, there's a property that is required called on pressed. So in that, when I press this button, what will it do? Pressed does that. So I like to specify a method up here that will like enable us to update this these FAQs. So I'll call this void add FAQ, and then I'll do this. So set state. So remember, this is important because once you update the FAQ variable, then it's supposed to update the UI. So you must always wrap your change of variables in set state. Like if the variable is like is required by the UI in the builder here, always change it in change state so that you're able to influence the UI. So here I'll do FAQs. So because it's a list, it has a property called add, a method called add. Sorry. So I can add. So here I can add here, and then I can add here. What I can do is I'll do editing controller dot text. So this will take the value of the text in the editing controller, and then it will add that text into the FAQs, and then set state will force the UI to rebuild. After that has happened, then I can clear the editing controller. I can do dot clear to remove that particular text and allow for the next text to be input. So if I come here and then I do on pressed, I think I can do this. Yeah, this is called a tear off. So I can either do this with a one-liner. I can do that. I can do this as well. Also, I can just do this because it's a one-liner. So now, when I come here, when I hot restart the app, and then I come here, I have my text box, which has that icon there. So I can say FAQ 1, and then I press send. It will add the FAQ to the list, and then the list will and then set state will force the rebuild. And just to emphasize, if I do this and I do this, let me just restart this, and I don't really see. Say FAQ1. FAQ1. If I do this, it will clear, it will do that, but then it doesn't appear. But then if I print it, also if you have any queries, I'm almost coming to an end. So if you have any queries, please pile them up in the chat. I'll be responding to them one by one. Yes, so I'll do this, and then I'll just display the console here. There we go. So if I do this, and then I press send, so you see the text is gotten, the box is cleared, but the UI does not rebuild. It is because you have to call set state for the UI to rebuild. Again, a very important concept. This is basic state management. If you have a variable that is used in the UI and you want it to change after you make a change to the variable, always call set state on it, or you can even do this. You can change it, then call set state afterwards. It will still work. So as long as you call set state to be able just to have the UI also rebuild, and then you do this, it works. So only that, yeah, this looks fancier. Yeah, this looks fancier, and looks like more meaningful. But yeah, that is it. So if I do this, again, we have the list, our list there. So we have our form and we have our list, and so on and so forth. So one last thing now, now to remove an element from a list, uh, remove element. What I can do is I'll do what you can do is what shall we do? What shall we do? Yes, we'll get the index of that particular element, and then we'll call set state. And then in here, what we'll do is we'll do this. We shall do FAQs dot remove at that particular index. So we'll remove that element at that particular index. And then what I can do here is I'll come to my list tile here, and then I can do something called trailing. So trailing here will be what? Trailing here will be something like an icon button as well. So now the icon, and then say icon, and then we have icons dot delete. So in the icons delete, I have so really, let me just make that more visible. And then we have compressed in a particular element, because it requires parameters. I have to do this. Yeah. So let's reload, and then do this. I do that, and again I do a lot of stuff. So when I do this, it will delete that. I do this, it will delete that. I do this, remove, and so on and so forth, and then I'll remove this. So ideally, what you have here is already a functional application. So now this here is like basic UI development, and you find that like once you have a list in the form, then it means that you can be able to do anything with an application. And so now the only bit that comes in now is because, like say, Facebook needs data from a database somewhere, so it now has to introduce a place where it gets its huge list from. So instead of like defining all the posts in a post variable, these posts are defined somewhere in the server, and then the application is able to fetch them into the app, and then the app is able to display them, and so on and so forth. And so lastly, maybe second lastly, we have so I had this package here called get widget. So being that everything is a widget, it means that as long as you have widgets like widgets anywhere, you can always use open source widgets. Like you want a button, come here the button, and then in the button I'll be told how to. Please don't embarrass me. Wait a bit. There we go. So in the button, we have several buttons here, and then I can just come here, and then I lift this button from. Maybe let me just pick one I like. So the properties, like all that good stuff. Like say button, I can come here and say like I want to pick a pill. Yeah, pill is much cooler. And then I want solid, all that stuff. Yeah, here's what I want. No, I want the outline one. So I'll come here and then I do this. So here GF doesn't mean girlfriend. It means it's prepending GF to enable us not to collide with the button for the framework. Yeah. So I'll come here and then I can change this suffix here, this trailing one. I can remove, I can comment this out, and then I define trailing. Then I do this. So I'll ensure to import import GF button from that library. Let me do this. Selection. I'll copy this. I'll copy this at the top. Yeah, much better. And then it does that. So the text will be say delete, and then peel, outline, all the good stuff. And then when I press it, what I want it to do is I want it to remove that element at a particular point in the list. So I'll hot restart. And then here we go. It will be having a cooler UI right now. Should be good stuff. Here we go. Say FAQ 1. And I do that. FAQ 2. I do that. Oh yeah, I'm supposed to add it. FAQ 1, and so on and so forth. So I can do a delete, and so on and so forth. Then also the other widgets as well. I can do like say a tile. I can have like a cooler tile somewhere. I can introduce like say GF list tile. Let me get a cooler tile. I don't want one with the avatar. What I want is one without an avatar, just the title. You know what? Let's actually get something cool. Yeah, let's get something cool here. GF title. So I'm winding up. Do this, and then avatar title. We'll call our title. This, and then from there on pressed, we'll do that, and then subtitle. We'll do text stuff, and then I can remove this to be like less red lines. Subtitle. Me, I am a cool. Wait, I am a cool. Then I can do this. I can do I am a cool. Then I get the FAQ of a particular index isn't defined. Interesting. Subtitle. Oh yeah, subtitle. Sorry. The API must have changed and they forgot to update the docs. Very widgets. Each one's a widget. So I do text. So if I now do a hot reload, I should be able to get something very fancy for our list. So I can do I am an FAQ. Now we have a really cool list. Then I can do trailing. I can do that. I can do do we have an icon? I think this can be able to do. Hopefully it does. Does this work? Hopefully it does work. Okay. Will this work? I might have will this work? Icon say delete, then from there we pressed. Will it work? Yeah, hopefully it will work. Then I think it should not be here. Should this be here? Okay, that should be there. Then paste this with GF button. Let me do this, and then unpressed. I'll do I'll do remove element at a particular index. Let us see if we have a cooler list. Now, yeah, we do have a cool list, and so on and so forth. And then legally there we have our UI. So we managed to bring in the package, and then it did that particular thing that it was doing. Yeah, so really that is it for the UI. Now I can take questions then now. So like you guys know that this was running on Chrome. So I'll now run this on my phone. So let me do this. Okay, let me just stop Chrome. Then I'll have this run on my phone. Kill the debug session, and then I'll have the same run on my phone. So as it's running, I can now be responding to the questions. Or maybe let me just show one thing. So ideally, like with Flutter, what the main thing is supposed to like be able to understand is widget composition, in the sense of let me just show you. So for instance, the list we've done, technology. Okay, so for instance here we have a list. This here is a list style. So a list style will have this is the avatar, this here is the title, this here is the subtitle, this here is the trailing icon. That's a list. So every app, a list and a form. And then we have the button here. This is the floating action button. Then here we have tab, and then here we have a title, and so on and so forth. So ideally, that is it for widget composition. So everything is a widget, and then this here will be the separator for the particular widget. So it now separates the particular lines. Sorry, I shall wait for the app to run. Sorry about that. And then after it runs, I shall be able to show you how the app looks. Same code base, but now on mobile. So I believe I can now take questions that were there in the chat. Widget link in the chat. We have here's the widget, and the link to the widget. Again, this is just one library, but there are hundreds of them. There are people who've made UIs using widgets, so you can just tap in. So I'll be coming to the next steps as part of the presentation, where here comes the app. Let me just display that. So here comes the app on mobile. It is running a few seconds, then we shall be able to see the app come to life. Yeah, here's the app, and then we have boom, and then we have something else, and so on and so forth. So that is the same code base on my mobile phone. That is the same code base on my mobile phone. Come on. Bloatware. Okay. Closing an ad is so hard, super hard. Okay. The app should still be running. Just a few seconds. You know what? Give up. I cannot go to the questions. That was it. It ran for a few seconds on mobile, but then my phone is having issues processing stuff. So yeah, that brings us to the end of today's session. And I welcome the questions. So next week we shall be doing a cooler UI. So today was just doing basic UI composition, just to give the principles, and then next week we'll now build a really cool UI for the app that we shall be making by the end of the month. So I welcome you as well to next week's session. If you have an app idea, you can begin to think of how it will look like, and then see if you can be able to implement that particular UI on your phone. Yeah, that is it. So over to the organizing team. So the next steps. Sorry. So the next steps. The next steps. I'll send digital. You can install Flutter from here. You can see how to do step management from there. You can get widgets from here, and then you can get more Flutter resources from this particular link. Yeah, that is it. Yeah, that is it. So if you want to reach us, you can be able to reach me via that particular email. In case we are hiring soon, we shall be able to be considered. All right. Let me. So the question in the chat: does it know which platforms you use? So for the icons, I mentioned that if you want Cupertino icons, if you have, like, by default, icons gets the icons from material, but if you want Cupertino icons, you get them from icons. Icons. Yeah. So ideally, you specify which icons from which platform you want, but then once you display the icon, then it displays the icon depending on how it's defined in either Cupertino or material, and not necessarily on the platform. However, if you want to run code that is platform specific, there are ways to do that. You can. It's a variable called. Let me just. It's a variable called, say, platform dot. Let me just see if I can get this for you. There should be is a variable channel called platform dot. You can import that from here, and then you can get, if the platform is Android, you can do something specific. If the platform is iOS, you can do that. If it's Windows, you can do that as well. So on and so forth. I think I haven't tried running the app on Windows. Yeah, that is it, Fatuma. Thank you for your question. Is there any other question? Resources. I think I've mentioned this. So in the slides that you shall get, I have put their links to the resources that you can be able to get from So this one particularly, bit.ly, say bit.ly for some Flutter. So here is a list of some very cool resources you can get if you want to do Flutter. It is so you can be able to see articles, videos, components, navigation, templates if you want, because at times some guys have just gone ahead to build templates and then you can just get the template and then do the UI. There are guys also who have done open source apps, web utilities, books, jobs. So ideally, if you want resources, here is the most comprehensive list. You can be able to get articles. There they are, websites, blogs. There they are, tutorials. There they are, and so on and so forth. So that is the list. I hope Higa, you are answered. Right. So I think it's, if there are no more questions, maybe like one last question if there are any. But if there are none, I will hand over the session back to the team at DSC. Thank you for the invite. Over to you guys.
Thank you so much, Mila. That was a really insightful presentation. It's so evident how amazing Flutter is and how easy it is to use to create UIs. But once you understand the basics and make good use of the docs, and it's all about trial and error till you get something that suits your needs completely. I also hope that everyone else has learned something new and something awesome today. And then on behalf of everyone, thank you so much again, Mila, for this presentation. You can also, I heard you talk about the stuff we need to do to prep for next week's session. So if there's anything we need to install for the session, please send the links on the chat. We'll still share the links via email after the event. Also, if anyone has feedback to send our way to help us offer you with better events in the future, we very much welcome it. Reach out to us on the DSC page via the Contact Us link. Also, if you have any questions for our speaker, please reach out to him via the email address. I'll post it on the chat in a few. As I said in the beginning of the meeting, the series will go on throughout the month of April, every Friday from 4 p.m. to 5:30 p.m. Also, you need to RSVP for each event every week. So check out the DSC page to RSVP for all the events. One last thing, all the events will be recorded, including this current one, and they'll be on the DSC Strathmore YouTube channel. I will also share the link on the chat. So today's event recording will be uploaded in about 2 hours after the end of the event. The slides to the event will also be sent to you via email together with the link to the YouTube video. Subscribe, share the videos with your dev friends and tech enthusiasts. Thank you so much for joining us today. I hope you've learned something new. I hope that you'll join us on the following Fridays on other events for more of Flutter. See you next Friday. I'm posting the email address and the link to the YouTube channel right now. You can feel free to leave the meeting, not unless my lead, the DSC lead, has something to say to you guys. Thanks.